Hi and welcome to JJ's Productions. We've got another Stoke City Vlogcast. With me as always is Jan. How are you doing today?
I'm okay.
So we're a day late doing this, and considering we beat Bristol City I was sort of pumped up to do the vlog, I'll admit, but I think we just had a bit of a mental 24 hours or so we're apologising first of all for the late release of this episode. But Bristol City was a good result, wasn't it?
It was terrific. Mother was over the moon.
It was certainly a surprise result in quite a few ways. We've got a surprise goal scorer, a surprise clean sheet, and yeah, I am just genuinely surprised.
Before we do carry on, I'd like to thank Joshua Jones, who is a Bristol City fan, and he made some lovely comments about Stoke.
Yeah.
And he was really straightforward in what he had to say, that he thought that Stoke were going to win. And he was genuinely a nice lad. So thank you, Josh, for your comments.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit there, I was really surprised when I saw someone commenting saying that they thought our side would win. So, I mean, if anything, he did proved to be quite pathetic in the sense of it did come true what he was saying, but equally it must have hurt him to say that. So thank you very much for saying that, because, you know, as a Stoke fan, I know if I was just venturing onto a Middlesbrough blog this week, I wouldn't be overly happy saying that. So I'll praise you for fronting up and saying that, so thank you very much.
Yeah.
But,
and as I say, all comments are welcome, and we will mention you if you do make comments.
Yeah, I'm going to say, I mean, we have regular commenters like Pugster Josh and whatnot, but
yeah,
I'm going to say when we do get people from the opposition, you know, it's very interesting, if anything, just to get a different side of the argument. So
yes, it is. Yeah. So back to the match, and yes, it was a brilliant win.
Yeah, I mean, I must admit, it seemed very close at the end. I mean, I've got Middlesbrough in my mind because we were doing the game, but Bristol City, they really did pepper the goal at the end. I think Jack really saved us by all accounts.
Yeah, he did. Good old Jack, that's all I can say.
There was a little joke about the fact that his family were in the stands, and I think Gary Rowett said, well, if that's what it takes to get a 10 out of 10 performance for you, we'll bring them up to Stoke every week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, if anything, I would do it myself. If I could drive, I'd drive them up myself if it meant Jack putting 10 out of 10 every week. Yeah. And it's not saying he doesn't apply himself the correct way, but I think that as far as shot stopping goes, it sounds like he's had his best game of the season.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And as I say, it was such a good win, and I think it's lifted all of us up a bit, that has.
Yeah.
You know, I know I feel better for it.
Well, we've just come off a 3-game week where we had Birmingham, Sheffield United, and then Bristol City.
Yeah.
And I remember before we entered that 3-game week, I thought to myself, if we can get a win against Birmingham and then just get a draw against either Sheffield United or Bristol, I thought that'll be a good week. So we've sort of done it, but in the wrong order.
Yeah.
So yeah. I am quite pleased with that. You know, granted, I would have liked a better performance against Sheffield United. I would have preferred a better result against Birmingham. But yeah. I'm not overly fussed, which is strange considering we're still in mid-table, you know. But again, we aren't far off the playoffs, so I'm just looking at it that way and thinking we're still in touch, even if we're not exactly close.
Well, if we win on Saturday and the other two above us lose, we'll go into 10th.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say this is the toughest game of the season so far.
Yeah.
You know, you could argue every game becomes that, but this is the one game I've been fearing since the fixtures were released. Not necessarily because it's home or away, but because it's Borough. And
the old TP is there, obviously.
Yeah, and if there's one thing that has made me a little happier this week, it's been knowing that he's had a midweek match to preoccupy himself with, so he hasn't had a full week to focus on beating us. But then again, though, knowing how Tony seems to have the rub of the green against us, I still fear a spanking.
Yes, yeah.
He does strike the fear of God into me as far as results. You know, I think the last time a Stoke side beat a Tony Pulis side was in the 90s. So we're fighting against history this weekend.
Josh, I don't like them stats.
No, I'm not particularly fond of it, I'll admit.
I'd rather my stats than your stats.
Have you got your stats then? Do you want to start?
Yes, I will. Middlesbrough. I'm still on Bristol City, sorry.
I think we're still a bit hungover from that win, so, just forgive us for a minute.
I'm hungover from that last night, Wolf. Right, the stats are they've won 7, they've drawn 4, and they've lost 2, and they're currently 3rd in the league. Now, to be honest, that's where we should be.
I think it's where I would also expect them to be, so it's no surprises. I think they're on target.
Yeah. The top scorer, I'm sure they have these names just to wind me up.
Go on, look.
Belonga. Now you know who I mean.
Britus on Belonga.
That's the one. He's their top scorer with 5 goals. And the next is Braithwaite with 3. So it's them two that we again have to concentrate on.
I'm going to say, I'll admit I like Britus on Belonga. I was sort of calling for Stoke to sign him when we were in the Premier League maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So he's certainly one that's been on my radar for a long time. It's pretty much since he had his breakthrough season at Peterborough. So he's definitely one to look out for even now, because I don't think he's exactly gelled in the system that Tony plays so far, but the way I look at him, he's actually suited to it. So even if he's maybe not, it's not his preferred way of playing, he's certainly getting goals still, so it's something to be worried about.
Well, actually, the other stats I've done, and I haven't done this before, and I don't know why, folks, because I should do, is the Stoke stats. And we've won 4, we've drawn 5, and we've lost 5.
So
no, I don't like them stats at all.
Yeah, we could do the win just to get 5-5-5.
Yeah, and we could do with the lost one staying at 5, obviously. And that's really all. We're in 13th at the minute. And as I said, if them above us lose, which I do have my little prayers, then we could go into 10th on Saturday.
Yeah, it's a mountain to climb still, but at least we're climbing.
We're going the right way.
I mean, granted, if we lose at the weekend, it's like going back to the summit again. It's not falling from the summit, I mean, but...
well, we're going up the ladder and we don't want to go down any more snakes now.
Exactly, yeah, so we definitely do need to get something this weekend. I mean, my fear is that we pretty much play to Tony's strengths, which is... I was playing the game as I do, and the one thing I actually realised as I was playing is that I kept sending in crosses. And I thought, why am I doing this? A Tony Pulis side is full of 6-footers. I'm not going to win a cross when I've got Saido Berahino challenging for it. And I'm actually quite concerned that Stoke might play that way. It's maybe a little unfounded, but, in this scenario I'm in, Borough are 1-0 up, and I was actually thinking to myself, I don't think I can come back to win this, because Tony Pulis sides, in my view, go 1-0 up, they can just sit back, soak up pressure, and, they can handle long balls, they sit deep so you can't play through them easily. It becomes a really difficult task. So, for me, the priority is we either score first, or we don't let them score. It's got to be as simple as that.
Yeah, I think, in my opinion, it could be a draw as long as we stay on our toes and, don't lag behind as such.
Yeah.
And I just think that we've got to play little players, if you like, smaller players like Bojan.
Yeah.
Nippy, and can get round the bigger players.
I mean, there was mentions of Tyrese Campbell playing against Bristol City, but he picked up an injury. But you never know, there might be room for him to come off the bench, because I don't think he'd start over Afobe. I don't think Afobe's earned losing his place as such. But I do think that maybe Tyrese could be on the bench this weekend just to sort of say, go on, you've done well in the under-23s. Maybe you can translate that form into the Championship.
Yeah.
But as far as Tom Edwards, you're talking about nippy players, and I think he's pretty much cemented his place in the first team for this weekend, because he played fantastic by all accounts against Bristol. I mean, I think the fact that the under-21 manager for England was watching, even if it wasn't necessarily for Tom, I think it's a good sign for him that, he's pretty much putting himself on the radar there.
Yeah. I mean, I do hope that Tom gets into the England team, the under-21s. I think that would be a right boost for him.
Well, it'd be a boost for the club as well. I mean, I can't say I actually remember a Stoke born and bred sort of player getting into an England squad that high up. Obviously we've had Shawcross in the England squad, Butland now, but we've never actually had one of our own in the England squad, at least in my lifetime, I don't think. So it would be a nice fill-up for that to actually happen.
Yeah. I mean, there was the Garth Crooks years ago.
Yeah.
He come through the ranks. I mean, he only lives down, he was born down the road from us, wasn't he?
Yeah.
You
wouldn't know it.
So he come through the ranks. But no, I wouldn't entertain him with a lollipop, never mind anything else.
I'm going to say that's more down to the fact he seems to have forgotten his roots when you watch him on TV, I'm guessing.
Yes, definitely. So, just back to the match, I say we just hope that he puts on a good side and, we're fighting all the way. That's all I'm hoping for.
It's a definite thing we need, fight, because Tony he'll set his side up to defend. They'll want to engage us. I mean, if you remember the game like Stoke versus West Brom a few seasons ago, we got Ibrahim Afellay and I can't remember the other player off the top of my head who got sent off. But you just think he will engage us, try and play dirty tactics, and I think we've got to be able to cope with that side of the game as well.
Yes, yeah.
I think this is where, even though I don't think people will agree with me, I think it would be wise to keep Darren Fletcher in the side if he's fit this week, because he is an ex-Tony player, and I know you might say, well, surely that means McLean and Berahino play as well, but I actually think just having one head in that team who knows how Tony plays and sort of knows how to match the levels, it's going to be very important, because otherwise I think there's a bit of a risk that maybe some players might just get a little bit complacent and think, we can pass around and, not match their levels.
I mean, I've got to be honest, when I saw Darren in the team on Saturday, I said, what the devil has he put him in the team for?
Yeah.
And I ate my words. I mean, fair's fair, I didn't want him to play, but all credit to him, he scored the goal, and, I take everything back. And I do think it's wise that he does play for the reasons that Josh has just said. It does matter that somebody does know Tony and how he plays.
I mean, I'm a little bit biased. I'm happy to admit that, because Darren Fletcher is one of my favourite players of this generation, if you like, and that I sort of admire how he came back from colitis, I think it's called, first of all. It was a bad illness he had. I think he's managing to cope with it now. But besides that, I've always admired how he was sort of a favourite under Sir Alex Ferguson, and then when he went to West Brom, he really adapted well there, because my instinct was he'd go to Tony Pulis' team and he'd be like, I think he really adapted well from being a Man United player to being a captain of the West Brom team.
Yeah.
He hasn't had a good time here, I recognise that, and that's why I never call for him being the team or anything like that. But equally, I think when you're looking in the dressing room and thinking there aren't any good pros, I do believe he is one of them.
Yeah.
Maybe he shouldn't be in the team, but I don't think he's a bad voice to have around, because if anything, one of the things he's been called out for in his career has been a teacher's pet.
Yes. Yeah.
And there's a bit of me that actually thinks we need one or two of them, just in the sense of someone who actually buys into what the manager's selling.
Yeah.
And I think if you've got someone like that in your squad, then at least you know if the manager's picking him, he's doing what the manager says.
Yeah.
Even if he, like Fletcher, is getting on a bit, maybe he can't do it exactly like the manager's asking, but he will try and implement what's being said. So,
well, I even think on Saturday he should be captain. I think this is the time for him to be the captain, and while he is being played, then I think he should have the captaincy.
I mean, I sort of know where you're going there, but it's also a bit like for me, I was talking the other week with Birmingham and Jack Butland, should he have had it then?
Yeah.
And as much as I think to myself, Darren's playing while he was a vice-captain, so it wouldn't be that strange to do it. On the other hand, unless Ryan Woods isn't playing, I think again you'd be throwing question marks over it. I mean, if Butland had been given it for the Birmingham game, I would have said, yeah, go on, we'll share it out for Fletcher. But I think they're just happy having the captain in Ryan, the vice-captain in the other Ryan.
Yeah.
So, I know where you're coming from. I think Darren actually will be happy enough just being a leader without the armband. So.
Yeah, I think he's better at dealing with the players. Maybe he can shout and tell them where they're going wrong.
I mean, maybe it's just me, but if I was Ryan Woods or Joe Allen and I've got Darren Fletcher just pointing where to go, I'd trust him just for the fact that he's got years of experience in the game. Now, I know, again, this is maybe just me being a Darren Fletcher fan of sorts, but,
but he was a good player in the United heydays.
Yeah, I mean, again, maybe I'm just looking at that and I'm thinking of the past Darren Fletcher rather than the current one, but I can't help but try and mesh the two together, because I think we might only have him for 6 to 8 months now, but it's a case of can we get something out of him before his contract runs out.
Crouchy, I mean, he's getting on, and he can still do the odd 20 minute. Well, he can do longer than that, but I think he should only do 20 minutes.
I mean, I was reading an interview with Crouch, and I'm sure he still thinks he can do a full 90, and it's like one of those where you're thinking,
no.
I'm going to say, Pete, I do love Peter Crouch. He's even when I was just getting into football, he was one of the names I knew. It really upsets me that he is getting to the end of his career. But I think it's even more upsetting that he doesn't realise. Yes, he's never had pace. It's not as if things are radically changing with his game, but equally, it's like the game around him's changing a bit as well, and it's as if defenders are now aware that, okay, Crouch is on, we can just, sit a lot higher because he's not going to run behind us. And I think sometimes Crouch forgets that it's not necessarily his physical attributes that'll change, and it's just that the game around him is.
I mean, at the time of us having Crouch, I still believe that Defoe should have come with him.
Oh, if we could have got him, I think every Stoke fan would have been salviating.
I think it would have been a different ball game as to where we are now.
Oh.
I
mean, I'll be honest, I'd like to think if Jermaine Defoe was getting fed up of no game time at Bournemouth, we could still see it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I am still of that opinion with Crouch, but God, I would love just to see one game of Defoe Crouch at Stoke.
Yeah,
just to see if he could still strike it up.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll happen. But why the heck we didn't fight for Defoe at the time, I will never know.
I mean, it was understandable when he was at Tottenham, he was getting games, but then he moved to Toronto, and then Sunderland nipped in and got him, and it was those times you're looking and thinking,
why?
Yeah. I mean, even when he left Sunderland to go to Bournemouth, you think, why didn't we nip in there? He was getting older, but he did well.
Yeah.
I mean, I actually thought Bournemouth was a step down for him in a way, because he'd had that good a season at Sunderland. I thought, why haven't, say, an Everton gone for him, or someone just a little higher?
I mean, it's still got some fancy, really.
Yeah, I'm actually quite disappointed how Bournemouth have treated him. I feel like I'm always ragging on Bournemouth, but, the way I see it is, he single-handedly kept Sunderland in a relegation fight. Granted they lost it, but if they hadn't have had him, they'd have been dead and buried months before.
Yeah.
So I can't help but look and think, you sure you're not giving him too little game time? I mean, granted Callum Wilson and Josh King are doing well there, but it's like I say, I just found that entire move strange, not for Bournemouth and for Defoe. And if ever there was an opening, I'd like to think Stoke should still keep their eyes open there, but...
Looking forward to your comments on that one, folks. I mean, as I say, these are just what I think and what Josh thinks, but we really do like to hear from you and just see what you do think of that remark, what we've made about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pipe dream whichever way you look at it, but I'd say I'm curious what people think, because I've been doing live streams recently, and One of the commenters, as I've mentioned, Pugster Josh, he's on there talking, and one of the things he's been saying is, who are we going to sign in January? And I honestly haven't got a clue, so, Defoe is a name that I'm quite happy we've just talked about, because I hadn't thought of him, I'll admit. But I'm curious who Stoke supporters actually think we could go for, because we have got a few positions that could do with strengthening, so... Yeah, I mean, if there are any Middlesbrough fans who are tuning into this and just trying to pick up the scraps, if you like, of our coverage of them, I'm curious if you've got any thoughts about where we need to strengthen, or what you feel will strengthen,
Well, to me, it's got to be the defence.
Yeah.
That has got to be sorted out.
I'm going to say if I got a drum, I'd be banging it for the Aidan Flint drum again, because I'm going to say, I did mention it was going to be a back-to-back thing, and I've said most of my stuff last week, but...
Don't get me started on him again.
I mean, he's that good in my eyes that it forced Tony Pulis to go to a back three. Tony doesn't do back threes. He tried it a few times at West Brom and it ended up being in the most defensive shape he's ever tried.
Yeah.
So the fact that he wanted to get Flint, Ayala, and I'm just trying to remember the other centre half's name off the top of my head. Fry, is it? I think it was Fry, Dale Fry. I can't remember 100% certain. But the idea that he's actually changed Middlesbrough's shape and what I would consider Tony Pulis' shape, just to get all of them players in. I can't help but look and think Aidan must be one hell of a centre half in this league.
Well, we're not getting Aidan, so. But
crush my dreams.
I definitely think the defence needs strengthening in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still keeping an eye out for centre halves in the league. I mean, the one centre half we've actually come up against, who I've heard Stoke supporters say, "Ooh, he looks all right," is the Rotherham one. I think it was the number 5 that day. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but I don't think he was actually meant to start, in the sense he's not a regular. He's coming in for an injury. But he dominated that game. I think he came up against Afobe and Afobe didn't get a touch. Yeah. Whereas when Afobe went towards the other centre half, he was getting tons of room. So
well,
it's
I
pretty bad
when I can picture him even, but you know me.
Yeah,
senior moments are coming thick and fast.
I think if the games weren't coming that thick and fast, I'd be having a better job remembering. But I'm going to say
it's not very often you forget players' names, I've got to admit.
Yeah, I'll have to get my little notepad out and start writing them down. But I'm really looking for a centre half in this league who seems to know what he's doing, who we can actually go out and get as well.
Yeah, and I mean, we do need it elsewhere as well, but I think if we can just get a good defence under our belts, then that's part of the job done. Then we can rely on Afobe, Berahino to get up in the box and sort that end out, and we won't, we'll have more clean sheets, hopefully. But then again, Jack might be gone.
Well, there's a couple of minutes left and it's just a few little housekeeping things I'd like to just pass by. So, first of all, I'd just like to say me and Mum are thinking of everyone regarding Leicester City at the moment.
Yes.
I'll admit I just haven't got the tongue to say the Leicester chairman's name, so...
And I'm not even going to attempt it.
Yeah, I'm usually quite good with pronunciations, but I just can't attempt that. So my thoughts are with Leicester, his family, all involved.
And mine too. It's very sad.
I was talking about this yesterday. I didn't know whether to bring this up because it's quite sensitive right now. But I thought we can't do it and not actually express sympathy. The other thing just to bring up is, that wasn't the only thing that weekend. You've got Glenn Oddle, who seems to be in recovery now. You've got one man passing on condolences to the Brighton fan as well and his family. It was a bad weekend for the football.
Very sad weekend at football, that was. And I hope Glenn Oddle comes through it all right.
In that vein of thought as well, just talking about how the past weekend went, I would like some Stoke supporters to at least consider what they're saying regarding James McLean this weekend. In that, we've obviously made a statement that McLean won't be wearing a poppy this weekend, and I've heard a lot of people just getting very irate about it. Not the majority, I don't believe, but there is a vocal minority, shall we call them, and I just think there's a situation where we should say respect someone's views. You know, even if you disagree with them, respect them, because the way I see it is that's what the poppy stands for. You know, they fought for us, that we had the right to say what we want to say, essentially. So if McLean's views are that, you know, we were aggressors in his eyes, you know, we can't we shouldn't challenge that.
No.
So I just want Stoke supporters who hear this, who maybe do have opposing views to it, just don't boo him or anything silly like that when the game's on. Just, I mean, my hope is he doesn't play, just for the fact that I'd rather keep everything under the radar regarding him. But if you are there, you've got an opposing view, just keep it to yourself, please. That's all I'm asking. It's, you know, I just want a nice, quiet game as far as that's concerned.
Yeah, we need to concentrate on the match and not on McLean, whether he wears a poppy or not.
Yeah. So, last but not least, result or the prediction.
1-0.
I'm going 1-1, and I'm going to hope it's a 1-1, that we just managed to sneak the draw.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it for this week. We'll be back next week with the Nottingham Forest preview. If you've enjoyed this video, please leave it a like and consider subscribing to JJ's Productions if you want to listen to more Stoke City vlogcasts. Other than that, all I can say is thanks for Jan for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Okay, bye folks.
Bye.